Stop me if you've heard this one before. Oh my god, I love this song!
I love this song too!
I too love this song. We all love this song!
My name is George W. Bush and I love Carly Rae Jepsen.
This song is great. It's easily one of the best pop songs of the decade, if not the century so far. It's a song that, along with the rest of her 2015 album Emotion, catapulted Carly Rae Jepsen into the role of indie pop goddess. But why is it so good? In today's case study, we're taking a look at Run Away With Me by Carly Rae Jepsen, breaking down its lyrics, composition, and production to find out just why it slaps so hard. Run Away With Me is the opening track off Carly Rae Jepsen's Emotion, and it's also its second single. It has a time signature of 12/8, meaning that there are 4 beats, specifically dotted quarter notes per measure, and that each beat is subdivided into 3 eighth notes. Here's a bunch of popular songs that use it. It's in the key of F sharp major, and while I could show you a bunch of popular songs that use that key, what really matters here is that it's the key used in All Star. A part of me just wants to stop there, but some of you might want more, so... It has a tempo of 120 beats per minute, and aside from being a very common tempo in pop music, research into human perception of tempo has found that we gravitate as humans towards 120 beats per minute as a naturally occurring resonant frequency of human movement. Point is, it's a tempo that we as humans are inherently comfortable with. I won't spend much time on this, in part because I want to spend more time on other aspects of the song, and in part because other people have gone way more in depth on Carly Rae Jepsen lyrics than I could ever do. So as a quick synopsis, Run Away With Me is a love song. Specifically, the singer, Carly in this instance, has met someone who has set her heart aflutter. And through the medium of song, she is confessing these feelings to this someone and is asking them to, well, run away with her. That last point, the asking, is very important in this song. Because while it is a love song, it's also a passionate request, a plea, almost. This someone is framed as the executor of the reality Carly's presenting. Without them, none of what she's describing is possible. However, we don't get a response from the second party. There's no verse about how they felt and what that means for the singer. Granted, most love songs are written like this, to express one side of the story, one point of view. But what may be Run Away With Me's greatest success compared to other songs is how the rest of the composition serves to reinforce this notion of romantic uncertainty by playing with your expectations. And it starts with... To be clear, that title is objective fact. I'm sure you could think of a ton of other songs that have great sax lines, but did they get their own Vine memes? No. This is the only sax line you will need for the rest of your life. Let's talk about why. First off, the timbre. The overall quality of the sound is discernible, it's a saxophone, but at the same time, it sounds different. Its presence is massive, possibly due to the use of reverb, compression, doubling, or chorus. Its movement between notes is quick and sharp, its dynamic envelope having a very fast attack and release. Its adherence to the downbeat is so precise, it could be perceived as synthetic. Taken as a whole, the sound is recognizable yet unique, and it draws you in. Second, it sets up the tempo and meter of the track in 2 ways. Here's the line written out.
And P.S. I'm writing it out in F sharp major just for the sake of consistency. I know that sax lines are transposed depending on their build. I swear I have a degree in music.
It's not terribly complicated. It focuses on 4 notes with sets of 8th note passing tones in between. Those passing tones are the first way it sets up the meter, since they establish the division of the beat. You may have also noticed that the sax line has an added delay to it. And get this, it's a dotted quarter note delay. This delay helps to not only establish how many beats are in each measure, but also establish the space between notes, otherwise known as tempo. Taken as a whole, this sax line is a simple yet powerful musical phrase, but it's elevated by what's underneath. Is that an oxymoron? Runaway With Me uses a progression of 4 chords that are used for the entire song. In F major, they are B, D sharp minor 7, C sharp sus, and G sharp 7 sus. Or in Roman numerals, 4, 6, 5, and 2. You might have noticed that that looks like a typical pop progression, except there's no 1 chord. We as the listeners don't get the full harmonic resolution that would come with a 5 chord or even a 4 or 6 moving to the 1. For example's sake, here's what that progression would sound like if it was the 1 chord instead of that 2 chord. That's a progression that fits our expectations of a pop song progression. It's also boring as frick! There's another interesting aspect to this progression. You might have noticed that the chords are not your typical triads. One is a minor 7 chord, and the other 2 have suspensions. Here's the interesting thing. If you list out all of the notes in each chord, you'll find that there's one that's common in all of them. The tonic. F sharp. The home of the key is always present, even as the chords try and fail to reach a complete resolution. The progression is toying with you. It's almost like the constant presence of the tonic represents the potential fulfillment of the romantic feelings detailed in the lyrics, yet the lack of resolution in the progression itself represents the current uncertainty of whether or not the person to whom Carly's singing about will reciprocate those romantic feelings. Shoot, did I just say that out loud?
You're stuck in my head, stuck in my heart, stuck in my body. I wanna go, get out of here.
Now, let's look at the 3 most prominent sections in this song. First, the verse. Good rhyme. And in terms of production, it's very minimal. Carly is front and center, along with the kick drum and eventually snare. And every other element is either distant, like the vocals repeating the end of sentences,
I wanna go, get out of here, I'm sick of the party.
or enveloping, like the keys. Overall, it gives the impression of a soundstage that is very small, even with the additions in the second half. Like the sax line, the verse melody by Carly isn't too complicated, yet it contains hidden depth. The melody largely alternates between 2 notes, A sharp and C sharp. You might notice that A sharp and C sharp are 2 of the notes in an F major triad, otherwise known in this case as the 1 chord. Again, let's look at the chords written out, but this time with the vocal line. The chord progression, along with the notes in the melody, would lead you to expect a 1 chord at the end of the phrase. And yet, by maintaining the melodic motion between A sharp and C sharp over a chord that only has 1 of them in there, and that's only because of the suspension, we don't get the resolution we want.
'Cause you make me feel like I could be driving you all night.
And now the pre-chorus enters, and it introduces a very important rhythmic technique in the vocal melody. Syncopation. Syncopation is attractive as a rhythmic technique because it plays with our expectations of a previously established rhythm.
Oh, some aspect of this song playing with expectations? Where have I heard that before?
The production and composition of this section are pretty similar to the verse. Aside from the aforementioned syncopation, added percussion and synth parts, and a sharp 1 in the second measure, you tricky dickies, you thought you could pull a fast one on me? But there is one very important moment in this section, and it's the last thing you hear before the chorus. Did you catch that? That massive snare hit? That snare hit is important in 2 different ways. One, it's a distinct use of that snare. That snare with that sound has not been heard up until this point in the song. Second, and this is the most important, it reveals that the performance environment is much larger than originally thought. The sections before this have relied on a vocal that is center with little reverb and percussion with quick attacks. Some flourishes, like a distant vocal or sample here and there, hint at a larger space, but this snare hit is the first element to truly show you the scope of the performance environment. Once again, the production is playing with your expectations, and it takes you right into our final point. Somebody call my doctor, because I got a case of the worms. Earworms is what I mean. Because this chorus is really catchy. That didn't come out like I thought it would. First off, our Lord and Savior intro sax line makes a return, though further back in the mix this time. A synth bass is added, emphasizing the root note of each chord, along with the subdivision of each beat, with a pulsating intensity. The vocal melody tends to stay on A sharp, the third note in the F sharp major scale, and a note that's only in one of the chords, the 6. This consistent pedal tone not only sticks out from the underlying chords, but it could also be seen as part of that disconnect between fulfillment and uncertainty that I mentioned with the chord progression. The singer wants her dream to become reality, so she sticks to her gut, even though the situation around her is less certain than she'd like to admit. There's something specific I want to bring up related to the vocal melody, and for this, I'm gonna need to wear my teacher hat. There we go. Perfect. If you currently study or have ever studied music theory, you might know of a phrase called voice crossing. It's generally best to avoid it, but if you do end up with it in an arrangement of yours, like Carly did with the last chorus, you essentially have two options. 1, change it, or 2, write the greatest vocal harmony in pop history. Guess which one Carly did?
I'll be your hero and win it. When the lights go out, run away with me, run away with me.
One last note. This bit is best appreciated if you listen to the song as a whole, but the chorus is louder than any other section. And I can prove it.
Picking a bag, even tonight while everyone's sleeping. When the lights go out, run away with me, run away with me.
We as listeners tend to think that louder things are better, right?
Correct!
And to have a modern pop song with clear changes in loudness, when most modern pop is relatively stagnant in terms of volume, is kind of a miracle. In fact, this whole song is kind of a miracle, and I hope in some way that I've shown you why. Emotion and its singles commercially underperformed, but the fact that this record is still discussed and talked about speaks to its quality. We bash modern pop a ton for being uninspired and repetitive, and a lot of it is, but I don't think we give it enough credit when it deserves. There are phenomenal pop artists out there like Carly who are doing great work, and they deserve to be recognized. And on the flip side, as intelligent listeners, we should try to understand why we enjoy or don't enjoy what we listen to, or why certain songs create emotion, get it, within us. Listeners deserve good music, music deserves good listeners, and Run Away With Me deserves all the love in the world.
Oh my baby, take me to love, take me to where you're sending.
Hey everyone, it's me, George W. Bush. Just wanted to say it was a blast being a part of this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button, and maybe even share this video with a friend. Also check out these playlists. One has more long-form analyses like this, and the other has quick reviews of the latest releases. Thanks again for watching. This is George W. Bush, and I hope to see you soon.